right, Luca Nation. So, welcome back. I think it's episode 831. A lot of you guys and gals really enjoyed our episode yesterday with Ben Taylor from Fanatics.
I think we're like over 900. I think we're like 920 something, not 831. I think we're
Is
at
that
like.
right? We're in the 900s?
I think we're well into the 900s. I think. I think.
Well, if it's okay with you guys, I'm going to stop making the introduction with the number.
Yeah.
Because I never really know. I know we've skipped over some, we've doubled up on others. So, I'll just say welcome back to Lucas Tigers and Bronze.
And
You
some
know,
of them don't have
maybe,
numbers, right? Some of them don't have numbers. Some of them, yeah, who the hell knows? So it's okay. It's all right. All
so
good.
we'll get into sports. It's probably been a minute since we've done a brain dump, but let me start you out by inviting you into the cage match. So, one of the themes yesterday's episode was product. So, how about you get promoted? You get the job of head of product at Fanatics.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you do right off the bat?
Whoo! That's a good one. You see the comments on the video. Everybody loved Ben Taylor. Everybody loved that he was willing to just answer all the questions, didn't duck anything to the extent that he knew it. Everybody loved that stuff. Love to have those guys. Love to have a product guy on from Fanatics at some point in time, which would be great. I got to tell you, before I answer, I mean, I do give a lot of credence to what he says about that there's more that goes behind the scenes than people realize. And you might know this better than most. I mean, from your time spent, doing retail, from your time spent working at a cafe, people come in and they're like, okay, why is this different? Why does my smoothie not taste the same as yesterday? Or why does this not taste as good? Or why is this not ready? Or why is this taking so long? And I know I'm guilty of that myself. My kids call me a Bob. But never do I take the time to think, all right, well, maybe there's a supply chain issue. Maybe these guys
Our
couldn't
supplier
get
raised prices, so we had to go to
to
a
a different place.
competitor.
Exactly.
But they could taste when the bacon's different.
So, and then it also gets to a point where do you, your dad, your family, when they're doing the business decisions, say, all right, now we have a decision to make. We can keep the price the same and use lesser bacon. And the 10% of our regulars who know what the bacon tastes like are not going to be happy. But if we keep it the same, the 90% of people who come in whenever they come in, the new people who come in are going to be happy that we kept the price where it is. We didn't price gouge. We didn't pass on the increased price to them. And we have to balance that out. We don't want to alienate the customers that we already have. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we're keeping price right to bring in new customers and people who might not be as bacon-y connoisseurs as the fat guy is right here. There's a lot that goes into that. So it's great. I can be like, yes, here's what I want to do. I want to make everything price accessible. I want to bring in only game used memorabilia, and I don't want any sticker autos or redemptions. Wrap it up, put it in a bow. It sounds great. It's a great idea. I'm head of product, but it's almost naive to say that that's something that can be done. It's almost like when Joe Gagliardi won third grade president race in my elementary school by promising chocolate milk from the water fountains. We all bought it. We all said, vote for Joe, class president. We're going to have chocolate milk come out of the water fountains. But it was a promise he couldn't deliver on. Of course, we were 8 and didn't realize that at the time. We just thought we were going to get chocolate milk from the water fountains. So
Let me read you a story post that I thought was really thoughtful. It was from one of our listeners, Punt Pass Click.
like
And they
them.
say, let's say Fanatics fails. How does that help the hobby? It doesn't. If they failed sports cars, they might not sell it off because no one wants a money loser, usually. That's at the end, though. It's getting there that's even worse. If that's what you think will happen, they'll get desperate first. Stuff like making more money on the same revenue by cutting out channels completely. Buy LCS. They could even go further and make the product only available through breaks. They'll have state gambling licenses to cover them in time for full takeover. Buy products on shelves. Imagine only getting access to cards if someone else is opening them for you or done e-pack style. Not too far-fetched to think a failing business unit would do those things to save themselves.
I mean, listen, it fast forwards a lot of the way. I don't know whether or not we can talk about their failure when they haven't even, gotten into it yet. And one of the things you have to think about is, yeah, they got the licenses, they got all the stuff, but like this product, Tops 2023, that they're releasing now, that's been in the pipeline for a while. Like, the start of that product, putting that into the pipeline is probably something that started before these guys even really took over, right? So, it's almost like in politics, right? Anything goes right, the president takes credit for it now. Anything goes wrong, it was the last guy who put the wheels in motion on this, right? So there's a lot of that. I love the thought process because we're all assuming that everything Fanatics does is going to go correctly. I'm not going to go down a road of like what happens if they fail because I mean we haven't seen anything yet to suggest success or failure. Let's give them a chance. Let's see what happens.
So when those options are presented, so in chess,
Yeah.
um, there would be like a debut, right?
Yeah.
And that's the opening part of the game where your first like 15, 20 moves are scripted. But then you
Yep.
get to the mid game, right? And so they had these scripted moves, take over the licenses, get stake gambling licenses, and hire and bring in very high level talent. Those are kind of scripted moves, right? After the takeover, get the licenses, get stake gambling license, and get a lot of high level leadership in the respective business
Right,
units.
but I don't
But
think
then
the
in the
state gambling licenses has necessarily has to do with the cards. I mean, they're also
maybe
building out
maybe not.
sports betting.
Yeah,
You know.
sure. But like you have like live blackjack dealer, right? Like you could do
Yeah.
that online, but you could also do live breaks. But mid game is not necessarily where the next moves are scripted, but it's where you do have to think 3, 4, 6, 10, 15 moves ahead. Grandmasters think 15 moves ahead. And what they do is if this happens, then this will be the behavior of my opponent. If this happens, this will be the behavior. So I'm asking you, do you see the experience as described here by Pump Pass Click? Do you see a different experience playing out and kind of what will happen?
No, I mean, listen, they're still building their team. Like they just had made a hire today. You know what I mean? Like to talk about what they're going to do when they fail. The funny part about it is their
What could
success,
happen if they fail is a better way to word that.
but I mean, their success and their failure is almost going to be only half dependent on moves they make, and the other half dependent on the market itself. I mean, would you call the Panini experience a success? Right
I
now,
I, I I don't think I have the credibility to discuss it because I wasn't here for all of it.
and most people wouldn't. But for right now, people would complain. Panini, we're glad we're getting rid of them. Redemptions, blah blah blah. No, the climate at the time Panini took over was everyone was like, "Oh my God, they're taking over for Topps Chrome." They're taking over for all this stuff. And look, I'm sure they had some missteps there. And I'm sure in 2013, 14, 15, people were like, "Wow, these are some lean years. Like, what are they doing? And why are they printing so much stuff? And why are they doing it?" But then all of a sudden, the market boomed, right? And who knows what's going to maybe Fanatics is successful in bringing people in, and in 2025, 2026, there's a huge boom again. Maybe there's more people in cards. Maybe no matter what they're printing, it's selling out. So I mean, a lot of it is the market itself. A lot of it, and I'd like to hope that they are going to create the market. Does what Punt Pass Click say have some validity? Sure, but you could say it about almost anything. Like what?
It's more of an observation. Like
Yeah.
it's not his opinion. It's hey, what this might be able to happen. This could happen.
Okay, but that's not just about Fanatics, right? I mean, it could happen
Yeah.
to anything. Let's talk about any card business, right? I mean, you want to talk about, card graders, right? What if, come up with the worst case scenario possible for PSA or for, for auction houses, right? I mean, we've seen it happen. There are down cycles. If things don't go the right way, companies, they will try to protect their own profit. It's not just Fanatics. So the doomsday scenario of you're we're going to have a situation where you might not be able to open your own box, like it's only going to be through a breaker. Could it happen? Sure. I like to use the evidence available to me to kind of make my own determination, and if I were putting up a story like Punt Pass Click to counter that, I would say it's just as possible that Fanatics is going to be very LCS and end consumer friendly. And look at what they've done so far. What the hell are they going to do with a stack of Paul Goldschmidt and Aaron Judge base cards? Seriously, what are they going to do with those? Those are not worth $20 to Fanatics. Those are not worth $40 per refractor. I mean, maybe they get them in front of Judge and Goldschmidt now and they do like the Patrick Mahomes
Sure.
Panini buyback autos and they insert them in
Right.
products as the MVP. Maybe they find some cool way to do it. But right now, that's a huge spend. And it wasn't a huge spend with Backyard or C Bless. It wasn't a huge spend with any of those guys. You know what it was a huge spend with? With your local hobby shop that puts the boxes in your hands. I brought in a couple of those, and you know what I got? I got $40 off a box of cards that I opened with my son. That was straight from Fanatics through Topps to my little rinky dink LCS that you wouldn't want to walk in. And when I did a live from there, someone told me he needs to vacuum the carpet. So to me, sure, if things go south, there is a path to what Punt Pass Click is talking about. But I'll go the other way and say, so far we haven't seen too much out of Fanatics. What we have seen is that they came up with something very creative to take care of the LCSs and the end consumers who are putting boxes directly in their hands, having nothing to do with breaks. Did they do buybacks only through breakers? Hey, by the way, if you are with one of these 10 licensed breakers, 10 Fanatics chosen breakers, and happen to hit a Paul Goldschmidt or an Aaron Judge, Fanatics is giving you money back. Nope, they didn't do that at all. They said, bring it into your LCS. So to me, I can only work on what I've seen so far. And what I've seen so far is they're not leaving the LCS to hang out there and dry. They're not leaving the end consumer to hang out and dry. They've done something to help that end consumer and to drive the hobby store. And Ben said it yesterday on our episode, right? The LCS is the key to this experience. You want somebody going to their LCS, going down the block, grabbing their nephew or grabbing their kids' friends and saying, hey, we're going to take you to our store. You make the right point, though, that not all LCSs are created equal. And once you get into that store, you're going to want it to be an experience that person wants to go back to and continue their hobby collecting journey. That would be my response to Pump Pack Clip. I don't want to say that I'm a Fanatics apologist or that I'm predicting anything spectacular or anything bad. I can just go by what I've seen so far, and that was a cool thing. We heralded it. We thought it was a cool move. It was actually something you suggested right before they did it. Remember?
I do. My biggest concern is they're slaves to multiple owners, right?
But are they? They're a private company, right? I mean, they have investors, but they're not like a publicly traded company.
Yeah, but all these people want them to make them happy. Like collectors want them to make them happy by releasing good quality products and not high print runs. Their stakeholders want them to release as much product as possible to make as much money as possible. LCSs hope that they come in and give them distribution or give them access to product.
Remember we talked about that
they're the chosen ones by Fanatics.
Fanatics is the key to it all. I said, hey, how are your shoulders?
Please everybody.
Yeah, your shoulders. You try to bench press the whole hobby, and you're like, bench press is not a shoulder exercise, Cage. Remember you told me that? And I don't know the difference, but
what I could do is flip it and say, I don't know if they'll be successful, but I could find a lot of ways where they could be unsuccessful if they do X, Y, and Z. And my biggest worry is to cater to too many
masters?
To two different masters.
I get it. But I mean, listen, people talk about like hobby optimism and hobby positivity.
Who talks about that?
Everybody when they have nothing better to talk about. And I'm going to say, let's not talk about hobby positivity. Let's talk about hobby realism. I can't talk about what's going to happen with Fanatics in 3 months or 6 months.
So your parents, let's say one day they come to you and they say, we want to get divorced. We wanted our kids to go to college.
This happened, and you're bringing back horrible memories.
Yeah, it's okay. So we wanted our kids to go to college. They wanted to raise them in a 2-family household. But we decided that it just is not a good fit and we have to go our separate ways. Is that is that optimistic or pessimistic?
Wait. I don't understand the question. If my parents come to me and tell me they're divorced, it's neither optimistic or pessimistic. It's a fact.
Boom. And the optimistic, pessimistic is sort of kind of depending on how you interpret it, right? Well, now my mom and my dad could be happy, right? Because now they can truly live their life. Well, now I don't have parents anymore. So you could view the same situation as optimistically or pessimistically.
Yeah, I mean, glass half full, glass half empty. There are people who look at different things different ways. Sure.
This whole hobby positivity and negativity is futile. It's just how you look at it. It's a stupid conversation.
So why are we talking about what Punt Pass Click think might happen to Fanatics in 3 years?
So I guess a lot of people.
My take on it is right now what we have in front of us are the facts that they've done. Right, I think they're coming into it trying to be successful. Right, I think that they're reaching out to people like us to be on our show to maybe get some feedback from our audience. I know they are marketing with a lot of different people. I know that they're hiring some real talent, some big names. They're trying to get the athletes involved. I saw the buyback thing that they did. We've seen some of the things they're doing. And while I'm sure there are segments of the hobby that disagree with a lot of what they've done, these people don't like that they're doing this. These people don't. So far, so good in my eyes. I haven't seen them make a misstep that was so egregious where I'm like, all right, they're failing.
Let me answer your question. So there's some people I interact with from our audience, and they come from different walks of life. I think Pump Pass Club comes from like a very high end marketing. I don't want to misspeak, but you watched Reggie Jackson was on the he got moved to the Nuggets or he bought out whatever, but he's now on the Nuggets and they played the Clippers. So Reggie Jackson was barking out the Clippers plays.
Huh.
He knew the Clippers plays.
Yep.
So why do we discuss some of these things is because some people in our audience and us as well through conversation, we might be able to see a little bit about of the playbook. And if you know the playbook, you might be able to have a higher likelihood of predicting the results.
Right.
That's
But
why you discuss it.
every NFL team comes out with the first 15 plays or so scripted. Right? Doesn't mean that they're going to score on every one of them because, they're playing against somebody else.
Correct.
There's weather conditions, there's field conditions.
So,
You still have to execute them, and there's how it gets executed and how the
so what
market.
happens if so perfect. So every NFL team comes out with 15 plays, scripted.
Yep.
And now we play the game of if they score, how do they then go about the rest of their plays, right? You could watch film and say, oh,
Yeah.
well, after they score, they're actually way more inclined to throw the ball and be more risk taking. After they don't score, they run the ball. So what pump pass click in this scenario is saying is if they don't score on some of these very high overhead hires, if they don't score on some of these big spends, there are things that they might be doing to cut costs. And this is what it might look like. That's all.
Okay. And they also might be cutting out 7 low end products.
That'll be interesting. Which ones would you cut out?
Um, let's see.
Flux has to go.
That's not a Tops product.
Oh, you're right.
Let's see. Clearly authentic autographs.
Okay.
I would cut that one out. I would cut out a whole bunch of other things. So I'm only saying this, and I would like to do a look on it, but I'm pretty sure during the summit they just announced that they're cutting out some lower end products, including
Wow.
clearly authentic autographs that I just mentioned and a few others.
Good.
Like Topps Fire was one. I think they're cutting out the opening day one, which is the same as basically regular Topps, but it had like a stamp on it that said Topps opening day. So I mean, a script, the punt pass click. I love them. Great, amazing DMs. Very insightful, very thoughtful. But maybe Fanatics knows what they're doing, and maybe they're going to take some cost cutting moves out of the gate, just in case the other moves don't go right. And maybe some of the cost cutting moves out of the gate are cutting some low end products that just don't deliver any real bang for the buck. And I'm pretty sure they just made that announcement.
Do you think they're going to take the Panini playbook, which is something similar to what they did, and then 3 years in is when they created Prism, right? 2009, 10, 11
9
was
to
they
12.
kind of had no products basically at National Treasures.
I mean,
That's
the thing is, Panini came into it with, they had to create their own stuff. Fanatics is coming in with Topps, which is a 70-year-old existing brand. They don't have to come up with Prism because they can bring back.
Panini bought National Treasures. National Treasures was a standalone brand in 2007. There's actually some cards. I think Calvin Johnson has a National Treasures card,
But I
but
guess
it's not a Panini. I think it
what
was
I'm
Douglas
saying
back in the
is
day. I'm not
that
sure.
there hasn't been a Topps Chrome for football or basketball. Fanatics and Topps doesn't have to create a Prism because they have their Chrome product already ready to go whenever it's time to transition over. You
So
know what
what
I
do
mean?
they need to do? So they've hired some very high level talent, specifically a gentleman by Omar who has relationships with Anthony Edwards and Trey Young.
Mhm.
They've got basically CEOs, respected CEOs, and all of these sports collectibles business units. What do they have to do? Market,
I mean, they
create
are
demand,
marketing.
make it
So,
mainstream, have cards at the
so
stadiums.
all of the above. The goal would be that they should be leveraging their consumer base from a fan perspective. They should be leveraging their reach in jerseys and hats and t-shirts and other types of sports memorabilia, items, you name it, that fans buy to show their fandom. And anytime somebody is shopping with Fanatics or getting an email with Fanatics and they're a Yankee fan or they're a Hornets fan because they bought a LaMelo Ball, whatever it is, that marketing should now continue to, okay, you bought with us. You just spent $250 with us on jerseys to support your team. By the way, take a look at this, and the next time you buy, here's 20% off coupon to buy a sports or sports memorabilia product, or to buy tops, to buy baseball cards, basketball cards, cards for your team, a team set, or whatever it is. And also, here, come click on this link where there's a library to educate you of content where Andrew Goldberg explains collecting 101. And where if you want to learn about, oh, you're a baseball fan, you collect the Mariners. Well, here's your minor league team, and here's the pipeline of prospects in your minor league team. And Bowman is a product that we put out that has cards of those prospects of your minor league team 2 or 3 years before they come up to the major leagues. Maybe that's something you might enjoy. It's almost like betting. It's like prospecting. Oh, they're also going to start doing sports betting, right? Whether we want to say it or not, there is a common blood type between a lot of people who break and people who sports bet. And Fanatics is now going to be in both of those things. So to me, it's really just like anything else, right? You're leveraging the data, you're leveraging the knowledge you have about the collecting habits, the fandom, and then hopefully making it a better experience for the end user where they're getting a better product on both sides, right? So now the collector who's got a signed photo on their wall of, I don't know, Aaron Judge, right? Or they bought an Aaron Judge T-shirt because they were going to opening day. Maybe Fanatics that year is going to have a card release on opening day at every stadium, and that person's going to get an email. By the way, when we see you're heading to the Yankee Stadium, you bought your Aaron Judge, blah, blah, blah. Please note, we're going to have a special card release on that day. Make sure you stop by gate number 6 and pick up your Topps opening day lineup cards or whatever. Dude, I went to law school. I'm not a marketer. I'm not, any of these things. I know that my hope is that Fanatics is hiring the right people and is doing all this stuff with the right people. The difficult part for me is you talk about the many masters that they have to serve in business, right?
Yep.
These people want this. These investors want this. You got these guys that need to do this. And they have a lot of CEOs, and all of those people cost a lot of money, and they're going to have to justify, that spend and all this other stuff. The thing that worries me the most is, come on, man. The hobby, it's like any other business, but we have our own group of 47 masters. And there's not one of these like, oh, Fanatics, if Fanatics does this, they're going to make everyone happy. There is no this that makes everyone happy. As a matter of fact, the this that they do is most likely going to alienate one half of the hobby. I posted a story today of a little kid chugging a bottle of soda, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chugging a bottle of soda. I got 1 million likes and people smiling and laughing. This kid's a legend. Oh my God, is that your illegitimate son? People are DMing me. Like, is that a Coke Zero? What? That's awesome. And then I got one comment from Ziggy. Ziggy, I love you. But it's almost like if I post something that says 1 + 1 = 2, Ziggy's comment's going to be, you know what, though? I can give you a reason why it's 3. So he posts like, way to go, posting a kid who's pre-diabetic drinking something that's not good for him. And I'm like, holy cow. But Ziggy is a valuable part of the hobby because I do believe he cares about collectors. I do believe he cares. And I believe there's a segment of people like him who want things to be done the right way. And yet Fanatics may do something that 80% of the hobby is going to like, and then there's the 20% that are going to be like, oh, they screwed over these people. How dare you post a picture of this pre-diabetic child drinking soda? He should be drinking water. So that's the tough part. And you're right. So you're with Ziggy on this one.
Well, never buy purified water. Buy spring water if you can, or mountain water.
Okay. Dasani and Aruba is very good, by the way. I know you hate Dasani. It's
Dasani
different.
is terrible water.
They have their own water treatment plant down there. They bottle it there. It's its own water. It's really like the soda's different. It's actually bottled like there, and it was pretty cool.
Dasani is a Coca-Cola company?
Yes, that's why they have a Coca-Cola bottling license.
Do you know that we don't need a bottling plant? Like if you guys have been to
drink from the ocean?
Colorado or Utah, do not drink from the ocean. Colorado, Utah, like the mountain. If you guys have ever had mountain water, you feel so alive.
Yeah, I've had it. The last time I drank mountain water, it was one of those banquet beers. Coors Mountain Water.
Oh,
Mountain
I see what you're doing there. Gotcha.
It was a good
Um,
time.
so right before this episode, I went back and I watched the Lakers play the Mavs because
Ooh.
today you got, or yesterday maybe, it was LeBron's out for weeks, right? Out
Yeah.
indefinitely.
Yeah.
And I was trying to pick up because I was like, okay, what happened to this guy, right? So he went down, he said his ankle popped, but then he finished the game. And
Yeah, they taped him up.
it's not like it's a sprain, right? Like where he sprained his ankle. So like what's going on? But he did look hobbled. He did actually look very hobbled, and he looked like he wasn't putting pressure on it the rest of the game.
Yep.
What do you make of LeBron's prospects? Do you have any takes on the NBA? Durant is back. It's been a really fun season for a true fan. I don't know for like people
It's a
who want to
shame.
watch.
It's a shame because I feel like we're going to get robbed. Right now, the Lakers have the easiest schedule remaining in the NBA. And with the West as wide open as it is, and with the moves they made with a healthy LeBron, playing at a 29-5, 8 and change, 7 stat clip, and doing more than that, by the way. The stats only tell half the story. Just
Can I ask you a
playing.
question on this real quick? You guys out there who listen too, I try to pick up on trends before I make an opinion.
Mhm.
I have noticed something the last 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks.
Shoot.
When people describe LeBron, they only describe him in stats. So it's like, oh, look what he's doing at this age, and look at the numbers he's putting up. Is that really how you describe a player? Is that really what we've become?
Well, why is Jokic great? Because he makes good passes? Because he plays like someone else? Because he plays like Larry Bird? So
Why are you asking me why Jokic is great?
No, I'm answering it because I just gave back why you said Jokic is great. The way to do it is by making a comparison. You're comparing him to other people. And even when I said Jokic is just a big man, the way you explained to me why he wasn't a big man was you said his game was more similar to these players, right? And I can't do a stat comparison to Larry Bird because he played at a different time.
Sure.
I can't say, well, Larry Bird only averaged this, this, and this because you'd be like, well, come on, he was averaging that when it was 82 points per game and blah blah blah. So yes, when people do stats, I've never said it's because he's at his 38-year-old season. When people say the stats, I just gave them for one easy reason because the team is going to lose those stats now, right? And somebody else is going to have to fill those stats in for them to make a run and close the gap between 13th and out of the play-in to 6th, which is what I think they could have been able to do. I know what you're saying, though, and I give people a pass on it because to me, putting up stats is a very easy way to make a comparison to other players in the league, right? And if he's averaging 29, 5, 8, and 7, well, then LaMelo, who's averaging 23, 3, 7, and 6, all right, well, now you got a comparison.
Apples to apples, right? And if you look at social, man, it's crazy. Like the more I try to understand the debate between Jordan fans and LeBron fans,
Hmm?
it's always this, oh my God, at 38, he's putting up this much over the last 25 games. And I'm like, if that's your only supporting argument, don't you see some not like flaws in both directions? So when you ask me what makes Jokic great, is Jokic runs the entire offense.
Yep.
He is the offense. He play makes. He finds the open pass. He sets incredible screens. So to me, when I try to describe players, I try to describe them in X's and O's. I tried to describe Tatum earlier this year as he improved on offense, but he's so much taller than I've ever seen. His length is incredible. He's one of the best perimeter defenders because he doesn't let people beat him off the dribble. The Knicks actually took that was a fun game. We could talk about that, but it's not just X's and O's. It's not. It's not just. I mean, it is just. It's X's and O's. It's not just stats. I'm curious why people always use stats to describe LeBron.
Because when you're trying to do a comparison of one player to another, you can't just use stats, but you also can't not use them. It's just one data point. It's one argument. When you're making a case for something, you have exhibit A, B, C, and D, and to leave stats out of the equation is actually one of the dumbest things you could do. I wouldn't say
that's
that
what
is
today.
the only thing.
And we would have done that with the vaccine 2 years ago. We would have done that with masks 2 years ago.
The vaccine?
Yeah, we would have. We would have said, oh, if you don't take the vaccine, how could you be allowed in public? This works 99% of the time.
I mean,
I
don't know how
stats. We've become so number.
I don't know how a vaccine
driven.
stat has to do with like someone's assist count.
We've become so data and stat driven without being able to just apply common sense. We've
Because
common
common
sense across the board.
sense, it's just saying that the whole offense runs through him. Okay, so that makes him better than someone averaging 30 points. That's what
I'm
you're
not
saying.
talking about
So, but
Jokic. I'm
here's the
actually
thing.
talking about LeBron. And just if you instead of using Exhibit A of his stats, just go back and watch this season, man. He's a revolving door on defense. He
But you can't. But so it's quantifiable, right? So you can't just say Jokic runs the offense runs through him. Okay,
Why are we bringing
so
Jokic into this? I'm not talking about Jokic. I could talk about Jokic, but I didn't mention Jokic.
because Jokic is a great example of somebody who has stats but also intangibles, right? And does
No,
things the
Jokic
right
is
way.
someone who gets results, and the stats back up the results.
Right, because he has 4 championships. Okay, so here's the point, right? So, oh wait, he doesn't. LeBron does, and I'm not even a friggin' LeBron. I hate LeBron, but you always wind up having to make me defend his stats. It's dumb. You also would say, okay, Jokic is great. You want to know why? Well, I'm not going to talk about stats. I watch the games, bro. The offense runs through him. You love James Harden?
Is it, do I
Do you
love
love
James?
James Harden? Do you love his game?
I don't like James Harden's game.
Okay, well, the offense runs through him. So that's why
No, it
you
doesn't.
use stats,
He
right?
brings the ball up the court. The offense runs through
Do you
Embiid.
love Luka's game?
Do like Luka's game.
Yeah, is Luka awesome? He can't play defense. He's a revolving door on defense. He can't play with
Not
anybody
really.
else who's a player on the team. His 3-point shooting's coming along. He hasn't won jack squat. The results aren't there, but the offense is run through him. I could probably come up with 5 other guys who are now, I'm going to go down levels, who the offense is run through them, but they're not greats. But that's the problem. That's why you need stats. Because Jokic, you can't say Jokic is great because the offense runs through him. Because name 3 players for me that the offense also runs through that aren't great. Because then you have to add on. He's also a great screener. He's also a great
Jimmy
passer.
Butler.
I mean, the offense runs through Jimmy Butler. I like him. He's a great closer. The numbers aren't there for him, but
Laurie
dude.
Markkinen is
So
good, but
here's
not
the
great
thing, right?
defensive.
But and the offense runs Darius Garland, De'Aaron Fox, right? So this is why
That offense
stats
doesn't run through Fox. It runs through Sabonis.
Saboner.
And he
So
passes out.
another one, right? And he passes out. So here's the thing: why stats are relevant? They're only part of the equation, right? Because you can't just say, "All right, I'm not going to use stats." What I look at is I watch the games and offense runs through this person, so he's the best. But offense runs through this person is not an objective thing that makes someone awesome. You can say the offense runs through them, but the offense runs through them, and as a result, one, the team wins, and two, with the offense running through him, he's averaging 27 points per game. He's also dishing out 6 assists, 8 assists. He's also getting 11 rebounds, right? Because the offense runs through him, the stats are also there, and the wins are there. You need all of those things. Maybe what you're arguing is that Exhibit A should be the offense running through the person, their defense, their overall game, and then bolster it with the stats that come from that. Whereas LeBron, Exhibit A is always the stats, but they're empty stats, I think is what you're saying. Right? Maybe?
As a fan, this has been the worst season I've ever seen for the
Really?
Lakers team.
Oh, for the Lakers. I was like, for the NBA, it's been a fun season.
I've
man.
never seen a player handicap an organization so bad. And now we're gonna say, okay, this injuries are out of his control. You can't put that on anyone. But man, I don't have the right word because it's not like I hate LeBron or I wish ill on that team. It just rubs me the wrong way just watching this whole Lakers season. Just it's a lack of effort. It's a lack of continuity. It's a lack of leadership. It's holding the ownership's feet to the fire to get them the players that he wants. He gets the players he wants. And okay, it's an ankle injury. It's terrible timing. It leaves. I don't know. It feels this whole season from a Lakers fan perspective. I'd be disgusted for an organization that has such pedigree. I don't know, man.
Did you
None of
see
this was even about
the?
Jokic, by the way.
Did you? Yeah, but Jokic is what you've been talking about as the MVP of the league this year, and he is obviously. There are only a couple of players that I would compare LeBron to. So you start talking about LeBron, I'm talking about Jokic, and I'm talking about Giannis, right? So did you see that the Basketball Retired Players Association and the Athletic did a survey of currently the best players in the league?
Okay. No, I didn't. Tell me.
So I think it's on Bleacher Report right now. It's one of these things.
Oh,
It
I
came
saw
out.
it.
It came
LeBron was
out
like 10th,
today.
9th, or 10th.
No, no. LeBron James was voted the best player currently in the league, 28% of the vote. Jokic got 21, and Giannis also got 21. Jokic slightly above Giannis. And, basically, this is two different players, two different kinds of stats. It's the retired players. That was the way it came out. The athletic, what's their name? Aldridge and Robbins, I think, is who did it. They did one. And they did it last season. And Kevin Durant was the winner last season with like 40 something percent. And LeBron had
But
31, right?
this is my issue, though. Like, we've lost common sense in the system, man. It always feels like there's some sort of narrative being pushed on us.
But I don't understand. We've lost common sense in the system. How?
Obviously, Kevin Durant and LeBron are not the best players in the league.
What do you mean, obviously?
I mean, it's obvious to anybody who's played the game, who's watched the game.
But these are retired NBA players who are saying this. So you can't just say it's obvious to people who played the game. This is a survey of people who did play the game, right? Not me, not you. Like this is, I'm telling you, it came out today. Retired NBA players.
Maybe I'm jaded.
What's the campaign? Is it
were these Hollywood actors?
Were these guys? Did they take the vaccine? Is that what it is? Did they take the vaccine? Oh, we're going back to the vaccine.
You should not be allowed in public.
It's such a lunatic.
If you don't wear a mask, you should not be. You shouldn't even be around us. You're a disgrace. And it's like it's the same thing with these like lists and stuff. It's like they've lost any sense of credibility when you don't give the true great players of the game the credit that they deserve.
Who is playing? You could probably name a handful of players. Who has had a better season than LeBron? You could say Jokic, maybe Giannis, but they were voted second and third.
Tatum
Jokic
has a better season than LeBron. It's by a mile. It's not even close, Cage. And this is what scares me. It's what scares me that we live in such a shock culture that saying something like that, which is objectively true, is even questioned.
But I'm not saying it's not true. And
Jokic,
Tatum might. Giannis, Jokic, fine. Those were the top three in the thing. But Tatum's season. So what's the thing?
Tatum, Embiid.
So Tatum for me.
Donovan Mitchell's another one who's had an amazing season.
Yeah, they've all had great seasons, but so has LeBron. So I mean, you're saying it's so absurd that people would say LeBron's having a great season. I'm not. And
LeBron's playing with another Hall of Famer and a superstar, and they're in 13th place. And he needed more help and more help.
Who's the other Hall of Famer that he's playing with? Are you saying Anthony Davis is a Hall of Famer?
It's so interesting when when we want to, we could find all the supporting arguments for
who?
Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis is a Hall of Famer.
I think Anthony Davis is trash the last 4 years, but he is objectively, by these standards, considered a top 75 player of all time. Top 80, maybe. Right on the cusp. Him and Dame Lillard just missed out.
Lillard at least played.
AD was a monster in New Orleans.
A monster in New Orleans. No argument here. I see no lies. Has clearly not been a monster outside of the bubble.
Right. And it's his fault. It's not LeBron's fault. Did
LeBron trip him? Like, did LeBron injure him? Like, did LeBron channel Tanya Harding? And did he Nancy Kerrigan? AD, did he take a pipe to his knee? You tell me. If not LeBron, is it LeBron's fault that Anthony Davis can't stay on the court? Seriously, that's what you're saying. I can't
wait for the day for LeBron to be gone from the league.
Yeah, but that is a subjective hatred by you. Why not
That's
instead
not go? And it is subjective.
Why not go a different way? Why not say this? Because this might actually be reasonable. Why not take the position that LeBron's stats and the appreciation that people have for what he's doing this year is allowing people to overstate, overemphasize, and give more weight to what he's doing than what a Giannis or an Embiid are doing, because he's doing it at such an advanced age and stage in his career that he is in his 20th season, 38 years old, and when you compare it objectively, stat to stat, what they're doing on the court, sure, Tatum has had a better stat year, although the numbers are pretty damn close, and LeBron's got more assists and blah, blah, blah. But it's all about stats. But I said Tatum's having a better year. But when you think about it, dude, sports are stats. Sports are wins and losses.
You could make stats dance if you wanted them. You could make stats and wins and losses are not the same thing, Cage.
Correct. Obviously, that you're playing a game to win. But that is what it's about, man. You are not going to give any extra weight. You're going to take weight away. Instead, we know what your argument about LeBron is. LeBron should score 40 and 15 and 12 even at age 42 because he was gifted with physical talents that no other person who walks the earth was ever gifted with, and that he can never really do in Andrew Goldberg's eyes anything extraordinary because he came into the league NBA ready. He was born an NBA fetus, and he should have been averaging 50 and won a championship every season. So he'll never be good enough in your eyes, but
Can I say
it goes the other way. Oh, you've said enough, man. You've said enough. You've said vaccine
the reason I'm
quite a few times.
Yeah, but YouTube now doesn't censor it, so it's all good. For 2 years, we would have had like 4 strikes.
I don't know anything about strikes. All I know is I don't even like LeBron. Finish.
So the same.
But you have to have appreciation for what he's doing.
First off, why do we have appreciation? Why do we have to have appreciation for what he's doing? But secondly, my frustration is he's actually overshadowing the true young talent and amazing teams that are forming. And here's why I was prepared for this conversation. I also hated it when Kobe did it. I also hated it when Kobe did it.
Completely different. But you've already made it known. You know, LeBron doesn't make anybody better. The sad part is that it's easy to pile on now because the Lakers team is probably going to fizzle now because, you know, he was the identity of the team. Things did run through him, even though, you know, you're saying it didn't. And clearly the chance that they had is going to fall by the wayside without him there. And over the weekend, after they won that game and it looked like the Lakers had dodged the bullet, the conversation was, holy cow, they are a game or two away with an easy schedule and this real depth and momentum that they could avoid the play-in and really start to make some noise here. And instead, what's probably going to happen is they're going to fizzle out. They might not even make the playoffs at all. And this argument becomes one of those where, wow, LeBron, he didn't allow the team to develop and he GM'd his way into a crappy team. Where in reality, it was, I think if you just turn the clock back a day and a half, you're making an argument that they kind of had this team right where they wanted it. And just like the time that they won the championship where they were going at 70%, you know, this team started to actually, you know, kick it into gear. They looked like they were playing well. The game before that, LeBron and AD only played like 26 minutes each because they were smacking Golden State. They were beating them by so much, right, that they were able to rest their players because they're looking at it for the long run. But now he's injured. So let's pile on and say stats suck. No?
Let me flip it. So I come on here. I have all of these topics. What's interesting to you, Cage?
So LaMelo Ball is also hurt. And I wonder whether or not people who have money invested in LaMelo Ball cards are nervous today because, you know, here's a guy who was playing a real high level, you know, like I said, 23 and change, you know, 7-6. I know the stats don't matter, but the stats do matter to everybody other than you. He was playing at a high level. Those are better numbers than he's had in his career. Unfortunately, because of 2 prior ankle sprains during this year. I think it was only in 27 games or so that he had played to amass those numbers, but still playing at a real high level. Had a, you know, he started off it was a really nice pass to Gordon Hayward, who flipped it up for an alley-oop during the game where he fractured his foot, you know, his ankle, and it looks like he's probably gonna miss the rest of the season. And he's been injury prone. I mean, here's a rookie of the year guy who, you know, can't seem to stay on the court also, and people have a lot of money invested in this guy. And when he plays, supremely talented, exciting.
I have a take on LaMelo. So he right before he got injured, he played Minnesota at Minnesota.
Yep.
And for me, there's always this question of who's the guy? Is it Edwards or LaMelo? And I've flip flopped on this. Points I thought it was LaMelo. Points I thought it was Edwards. To me, it's clear that LaMelo is it. Edwards is going to be fantastic, but Edwards is never going to be the guy that's going to take over games, create games, win games for you. He's going to be the guy who gets you those stats. He'll be the traditional two guard. He'll get you your 28 to 30 points a game, but he won't do the extra that I've seen. He won't know. And here's what I was looking for, and I haven't seen it. They've shipped away basically the entire team, right? Cat's not playing. D'Lo's gone. This is Edwards' team, right?
Cat's injured. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But he's not playing. He hasn't been playing for a while.
Hasn't played for a while.
He's not playing until April.
Yep.
I think they're scared of an Achilles. Is Edwards going to just, will he shoot 35 times a game sometimes? Will he shoot 40? Will he have those games and he won't? LaMelo, on the other hand, when he's in that lineup with the Hornets, and that Hornets lineup sucks. Gordon Hayward basically is done. Scary Terry. I mean, you got no one. That team is a joke. That team wins some tough games, man. That team wins some tough games. And I actually think right now is a really good time to buy LaMelo. If you remember, Curry had the ankle injuries early on in his career, so it's not inconceivable to come back from.
You want your clippable moment here, 45 minutes in? I used to say that the hobby got lucky and that along with this boom, you had this amazing bunch of draft classes. And the Breakers loved it because it was all these products in a row. And you came here and you had 2018 Luka and Trey. And we're like, well, it's not always going to be that way, guys. There's going to be a stinker of a draft class, right? But then 19 and 20, and you had Zion and Ja. And you're like, these guys are awesome. Like, these guys are going to be great. And we saw Ja, great, take that real step forward. And then, wow, LaMelo and Edwards come out. And I remember, at National last year, everybody was all over Edwards' Jock. Edwards is going to be the Ja. He's going to be the guy that takes the step that Ja did. And, then another draft class comes out, and we got, they turned, Scotty Barnes into somebody. And Evan Mobley is going to be that guy. And Cade Cunningham, he's injured, but boy, he can play, and he's going to be that dude. And now Banchero, I mean, let's not talk about stats, but he's got the same size as LeBron. He's the same height and weight and the whole deal. He's just going to be the guy. And none of them are the guy. Not a single one of them. Not LaMelo, not Trey, none of them.
Yeah, but you have no credibility in the basketball space.
Says you. I think you have no credibility.
The other day, you were saying Jokic sucked.
You have no credit. No, I've never said he sucked. I just don't suck his balls like you do. So here's the fun part.
None of those guys are going to be superstars?
Not superstars. They're not going to be the next LeBron. They're not going to be the next Michael Jordan.
The guy?
The guy. So, but here's the thing. One, don't mischaracterize what I say. I said Jokic is not going to be somebody who's going to be collected, mainstream, and investable because he's a big man. Never did I say he sucks. Guy is supremely talented. Should win the MVP. Doesn't matter for cards. And now let's talk about cards. I may have no credibility in basketball, but I do have credibility speaking, and I have credibility when it comes to the hobby, and I have credibility when it comes to cards. All three of those you need to work on. Here is what I'm saying. None of those guys are going to be what anybody expected them to be in the hobby. None. Because everybody's looking for the next LeBron. Everybody's looking for the next generational talent. And the expectation is every draft class is going to have one of these guys that's bankable, one of these guys that's great. And we saw it. We got hey, is Trey and Luka 3 times, 4 times, 5 times? Trey is almost uninvestable now. And the dude puts up 30 points, stats. I know you hate them. Basketball should just be played without them. We shouldn't count how many points every player has. And we shouldn't tally them up and see which team scores more of them at the end of the game. We should just let them run around and look at who the game runs through more. And that should be the person who's the winner of the game. Rules of basketball. Peach Basket and all brought to you by Andrew Goldberg, folks. Trey, irrelevant.
Everybody in basketball has to score. The worst team scores like 110 points.
Everybody
so obviously, there's going to be stats.
Wow, but the stats are irrelevant. So now you got Luka.
Houston
all of a sudden
110 points.
Luka's great.
Jalen Green's going to average 26. Does that make him a good player?
Yeah, and I mean Cam Thomas is going out there and scoring 40 points, and people are buying his cards, right? I mean, irrelevant.
Cam's not going to be that guy.
Well, the point: who's not going to be that guy?
Cam's not going to be that guy.
None of these are going to be that guy. LaMelo's not that guy, and I've never thought LaMelo was the guy because LaMelo has a ceiling. LaMelo is going to be what you see this year. LaMelo may take a slight step forward. First of all, injured. Zion, injured. Ja, injured. Ja, take a step backwards. Edwards, no killer instinct. Supremely athletically talented. Does not want to take a shot at the end of the game. Does not want to get himself hurt. Does not want to dunk for half the year. None of these guys are going to be the guy that you thought they were when you invested in them. None of them. Not a single one. You want to know why? Because none of them are going to hold a candle to someone like Dame Lillard, who was out there and put 71 points up and is scoring 40 points. Shit, I shouldn't talk about what he's doing the last 12 games because the stats don't matter. But you know what? You know what also doesn't matter? Dame's cards. And we talk about it all the time. We talk about it in the PWCC auction. Dame's somebody we'd be talking about as Steph Curry if there was no Steph Curry. Right? He'd be that guy. He'd be the other guy, the one who's putting up the points. He'd be the one who's putting up all these numbers. He's the guy who's shooting from the logo, crazy three-pointers all the time. Nobody cares. Right?
Well,
Nobody cares. And very soon
they care. He has to win.
And you think any of these guys are going to win? You think LaMelo's going to win? Edwards is going to win?
It's because he battled through adversity early on, and he didn't run from it.
No, I think the reason why we love Curry is because he amassed some great stats. Oh, no, not stats. And he was put on a team, right, where
Reggie Miller had that, brother.
Reggie Miller had what? A team?
He had a lot of stats. He had a lot of three-pointers made, brother.
Yeah, and zero else. Nothing else. And also, name for me 3 players that Reggie Miller played with.
Dude, Reggie Miller's team was incredible. He played with Jalen Rose. He played with Mark Jackson. He played with the Davis twins. He played with
what are their names? And they're not twins.
The brothers are monsters. Do you remember that Pacers?
They weren't brothers.
Yes, they were. Pacers.
They were not brothers. It's Antonio Davis and Dale Davis. Trust me.
They were the Davis brothers. What are you... Jalen Rose, who's okay. Mark Jackson, who's actually an incredible point guard. Reggie Miller,
at the end of his career.
The Dale Davis brothers, and there was this big white dude. Is not that
Austin Crocier?
No, is it that left shrimp? No,
that left shrimp from the Sonics. He was awesome. Austin Crocier was on that team.
And what's funny was Larry Bird was the coach back then.
He was the coach of the Pacers. Rick Smith was there. Rick Smith was a big guy, but they didn't play Dale Davis, Antonio Davis.
Oh, and Travis Best, that little dude from Georgia Tech.
Travis Best also. Yes. So that's all top 75 NBA players there, all kinds of craziness, right? I mean, they definitely had that Golden State team with, Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson behind them there. That same kind of vibes there. That Indianapolis team. All right. So the point is, even Steph, right? And we all love Steph. It's very possible that none of the guys that we've all invested our hard-earned money in over the last couple of years are going to turn into anything. And that's a scary thing. And the injuries are scary, and the load management is scary. And the fact that LaMelo can't stay on the court, and Zion can't stay on the court, and Luka can't seem to find a way to win now in the fourth quarter with his new teammate. And Trey's irrelevant. My logic's always flawed. I mean, how can I argue with somebody who says stats are irrelevant?
It's like saying 90% of the stocks aren't going to survive. Okay, 90% of the companies in the stock market aren't going to survive. Our goal isn't to pick the 90 that don't survive. It's to pick the 1 or 2 that win. So, yeah, maybe all of those guys are wrong, but you still have Giannis, you still have Curry, you still have Jokic if you believe in him.
What do you mean by win? So that's the problem.
Retain value.
But that's not winning, right? So that's good. That's a stock. So you come on and talk about winning. Since when does winning actually matter?
What?
Who won the NBA championship last year?
What are you talking? The Warriors won. They played the Celtics.
And who won it the year before that?
What are you trying to get me to do here? NBA championship.
Was it Giannis? Come on, you watch the games, bro. And what's going on with Giannis?
Yeah, but I don't keep stupid information in my brain that I could go to Google and search who won. Come on. 1947, the Chicago Stags. By the way, you kind of look like a stag.
And you look like my asshole on a bad day. But that's not the point.
Lakers. I can't believe the Lakers won that series.
Lakers.
What? If it wasn't for that bubble championship, man, we'll easily write this off as just a sham of a. It's
the fun part that I'm trying to tell you guys is the I started thinking about this with the LaMelo Ball injury because I like LaMelo Ball. I like the Hornets. I like watching that team. I know the team. Like I watched it with stupid Devontae Graham, and I got to like a lot of the players. And I followed some of those players out there, and I watched, Cody Zeller have a huge block last night in the game. I mean, just like a really nice block in that Miami Heat game, from behind, and took out Embiid. That's pretty bad. But I like watching the Hornets team. I was rooting for LaMelo, right? I watched LaMelo play. I liked Edwards. I think the high flying is fun. We talked about Ja. I talked about Ja as a buy when everybody was buying Zion because I'm that counter guy, and I've always done that with Carmelo instead of LeBron, and I was wrong there. But I guess one of the fun things that I've been thinking about, because you asked what my topic was, and why I brought up LaMelo is I think we have to be careful with expectations about some of these guys. And it's funny because we talk about LaMelo and you went right to Edwards and you said, which one of those guys is going to be the guy? That was what you said. Which one of these guys is going to be the guy? Which one of these guys? And you waver, you go back and forth between them. And maybe you didn't mean the guy like the next LeBron. You just meant which is going to be the guy of that draft class. Like which is going to be the one that, is head and shoulders above the other, or, the class of that class, let's say, right? And I don't know if there necessarily has to be one. And we expected both of those guys to be stars and carry the water and make the products worth money and make the national treasures worth money. And then if a LaMelo national treasure is this, well, then Scotty Barnes and Evan Mobley have to be this. What if LaMelo and Zion and the rest of them can't even stay on the court? Like, we've talked about Zion, and that's a whole episode for a whole other day, right? Because of all the money protecting the Zion's cards and how even when he doesn't play, the card values seem to not come down, right? But what if none of these guys are anywhere near the guy? And what does that do? To me, Punt Place Click should be putting that in his story more so than what happens if Fanatics fails.
Well, it's speculative.
The whole hobby is. The whole hobby
Humans
is.
really struggle to separate things like stats and wins, speculating on players versus interpreting kind of what a company does. But okay. This is probably why we communicate verbally, visually, written. Some things are better just written in a blog form where you could kind of write and support, because the challenge with this show is there's always an immediate counter argument to anything said.
Correct.
And you could kind of shoot holes in an argument before the full argument is kind of completely put together, presented, thought about, and then said, have you thought about this? But that's the reality of a talk show. I'll say
I have
Zion,
one for you. Ian asked me this, Zion. Ian asked me this, right? And I'm just off the top of your head. What's the best draft class in the NBA ever? And then I'll tell you what I said.
Magic and Bird, man. I guess that's 2 different years, huh?
It's tough because, it's funny because, you talk about that because they're the same rookie year, right? Like Magic Bird had the same tops card. And, if we want to do that 86, 87 Fleer is going to be the best, right? Or 2012 Prism. But
Barkley and Jordan aren't the same class.
Nope. No, but if you went by basketball card set, well, it's funny. So I'll give you a couple to choose from, right? And then you talk about the depth, right? So right off the bat, I'm going to say 84, 83, 84, because that is Jordan and Olajuwon. And there you have 2 champions, 2 defensive players of the year, you name it. But after that, now you go 96, right? Because you have Kobe and Iverson and several others who are great players and top players in top 75. But champions, not so much. You go 03, because you have LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Bosh. A good draft there. Those would be, I would think, what most people from the last, couple of decades would say, or what's at the top of the draft. Those guys. 96, 03. You got your Jordan.
I got to go from my era, right? Like, remember, I didn't get a chance to watch Bird, Magic, or even Jordan that much. Like, that was more on replay. But if you look at that 96 class, that's the first one that came to mind. Because even guys like Antoine Walker and Jermaine O'Neal were legit.
At points, Marbury, I think, was that year too, right?
Yeah.
Marbury, I think, was that year too. Nash? Or was Nash the year after? So, that was Ian's pick, by the way. He must have watched a special on it. I said to him, as great as those guys were, it's difficult to beat the top 2 of Jordan and Olajuwon. I'd have to go through the draft and see who else was in there. I think there are some other decent NBA players in the draft. But just as far as like championships go, and then I said that to him, and he goes, "Well, if it's just going to be championships, then what about
Russell.
Dwayne Wade and LeBron? They won
That,
championships together. They're the same draft class." And I'm like, all right, well, so he's interesting. Some
yeah, I
arguments.
don't know why the whole LeBron subject triggers me. I truly think it's more of his fans than him as a player.
I'm not
Like,
even a LeBron fan, but so here's the thing, man. Maybe part of it is this: you're a young kid still, right? And maybe watching sports the last couple of years, some of the guys who are in your eyes probably the villains, the Tom Brady's, the LeBrons, someone like me and the older collector, maybe we've started to root for those guys because they're doing it at an age closer to us. And I know how hard it is just for me to wake up in the morning and carry out my day, let alone go and play at the highest level possible, playing in the NBA, playing the NFL at an advanced age. Maybe there's a little bit more respect paid for those guys. Whereas you're like, come on, who cares? He's 38. He sucks. Jokic is so much better.
well, but that's my criteria. So maybe I'm in a wartime mood. I'll admit that.
That's fine.
And what I meant, let me rephrase. Maybe I'm in a wartime stage of my life where it's kind of feels like in business, it's a battle, right? Like we're not the little guys on the block or the new guys on the block, but we're also not the big dogs that get all the respect. So there's a little bit of that battle still there. I also feel just economically, but more like geopolitically, it's a little bit more. And I look at LeBron and I'm like, this is not a guy I'd go to battle with because I feel he abandoned me.
I honestly couldn't argue against that. I know you say counterpoints. I think you're probably right.
If we just dated all the way back, and maybe that's just primitive and stupid and not kind of how we need to look at it, but it was mano v mano. It was wrestling and gladiators really were like the two first sports. And it was like, it was that battle, right? People paid for the battle, the competition. And it was like, we go to war together, right? And then you had team sports, you go to battle together. And leaving Cleveland the way he did and just how he goes about his business, like, again, he goes out with this injury, and it was like, you can't knock someone for getting an injury, right? That's so inappropriate. Yep. But it just, again, is the same thing as like, again, you do battle with him.
I mean, listen, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. You've been in locker rooms, and you've looked around a locker room at halftime where your team is down, and you say, you know what? I'm going to leave it all out there because I'm going to do it for the guy to my left and the guy to my right. And you play for your teammates, and you're going to go to war, you're going to go to battle with those guys. And I think maybe with the money that's being made, maybe with, the game being as businessy as it is now, maybe you lose a lot of that, and maybe that's what you're tapping into. And I can't fault you for that because I think you're probably right.
So we get invited to like these shows and to do like kind of podcasts with athletes behind the scenes. One guy I really wanted to interview was Derek White. And I was watching him. I had the question. Like I was watching him last night. And did you watch the Celtics-Knicks game by any chance?
I watched the third quarter of it, and then it got out of hand. Yeah, a lot of bad shots being taken.
A lot of it was Celtics could not make a shot. Knicks have been playing really, really well.
Knicks play good defense. It's part of it.
They played good defense, but there was a lot of missed shots too. Like it's a combination of both. That's not to take away from the Knicks, just to be clear. But what I loved about Derek White was this is a guy, remember, he got traded from the Spurs, 6th, 7th, 8th guy off the bench. Like he was not a starter on the Celtics. Do you remember this? It's like a rotation guy.
Yeah.
D3, he wasn't even supposed to be in the NBA. He was having a terrible game. He was missing everything. But he was relentlessly attacking the entire game. And I admired that about him because he was like, this is what I need to do. I know I'm not the main guy, but if I get open shots, I got to shoot them, and I got to shoot them with confidence. And there was something admirable about that. That even when
we talked about him when he got traded,
he was still in the battle with the guys. There was I don't know. There's something cool about that.
But I mean, listen, that's also the team, right? I mean, basically, he has to know with confidence that even if he keeps missing, that he's not going to go back to the locker room and the team's going to be like, "What in the hell were you doing? Why you keep shooting if you keep missing? You got to stop putting up those bricks." He's got to know that somebody pulled him to the side and be like, "Thanks for continuing to do that. We couldn't hit the side of the barn here. at least you're going out there and trying to make something happen. Keep doing it.
Accurate.
Keep getting your shot up. You know what I mean? And that's a locker room. Can I another little clippable thing here? And maybe our people listening. I don't know what the actionable investment plan is on this, because you actually said within the last week that the prism of his card is something you would never buy right now. I got to tell you, we talk about the Knicks. The Knicks have the second longest win streak in the NBA right now. I know that's a stat, and the stats don't matter.
That's not a stat.
But do you know how many wins in a row? But do you know who has the most wins in a row right now, active?
Yeah, Bucks, 14 in a row.
14 wins in a row.
You want to buy
the
Jrue
last
Holiday
couple,
cards?
Holiday's playing really well. But if they win a championship this year, right? And right now, I think the odds are the Celtics have a 51% chance to get the 1 seed, and the Bucks are a 49% chance, even though the Bucks right now have a slight lead percentage-wise on the 1 seed based on the amount of games played. They also have a better head-to-head with the 3 beasts of the East, your Philly, Bucks, whatever. I think they have the most wins. But I think the Celtics have a little bit of an easier schedule going forward. That said, no one's really talking about – we talked about it last year, and obviously it didn't go this way, but what if Giannis wins again? What if Giannis finishes top 3 in the MVP voting and then leads a team, which, by the way, it's a good team. It's a team with depth. It's a team that plays defense. It's a team that plays the ball the right way. But no matter how good Jrue Holiday is, and no matter how good Chris Middleton plays, or Bobby Portis, or any of the role players that go out there and play, it is Giannis's team. Make no doubt about it. It's Giannis's team. Does it change? Do we start talking about him more like Mahomesy again? Like it's another championship, the floor and his stuff, the cards to move up, or no?
Well, did you see the post that Alex did today, comparing all 5 of the?
Yep.
It kind of puts into perspective how expensive he is. Like, if you're gonna ask for 15 to 17K for his silver, I do like the card. It's a nice card.
Yep.
So maybe you add a little bit of that. But you have like a Pop 77 silver PSA 10 of Giannis, probably a few in the BGS. And then you have like a Jokic or a Luka, and I know they haven't won championships, so you can't really compare. Sitting in the 2000 range, it's really hard to wonder where that card could go. Like, does it go back to 20? Fine. So you still have so much downside risk. You do have upside risk. You do have upside potential. He could win. He's on that track record. I just don't know how much is left. Like, there might be one more squeeze.
Okay.
That's why
it's fair.
That's data, not stats. And
but it's valid, right? Because you're talking about what's already priced in. We've talked about this, right? With Hurts, we talked about it with Mahomes. Mahomes' cards were, but remember, Mahomes' Prism rookie was like 10, and it moved down to like 3, right? It had already been beaten the hell out of. The Giannis was like 27. It's still like 17. You know what I mean? It hasn't fallen 70% like the Mahomes did. There's more room for it to go up and less downside. So
I found these cards with under 100 pop, even 150. I don't want to say they're protected, but you don't see, like, how many times do you see Giannis silver sell? Like once a month, maybe? Yeah. You see that Mahomes card, it comes up for auction all the time.
Whenever you want it. Yeah.
In PWCC, there was like, I think there was 10 9s of that card.
Yeah, there's a lot of 9s.
So it's like
a different card.
It's a little bit of a supply demand game. I think that Giannis Silver is a little overpriced. Can you give me 1 minute on Zion?
Yeah, shoot.
Earlier in the year, so actually 2 things. I'll go Pelicans and I'll come back. But like earlier in the year, like the Pelicans were this team with so much young talent running Zion at point guard, and it was like, dude, this is the future. This team is dangerous, and they just completely unraveled. Yep. And Zion went down. And my concern is actually that they were batting above their average with Zion. They've regressed to the mean, and they lost a valuable player. And I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't think Zion's going to come back the rest of the year.
I mean, we've seen Zion's cards be a little protected. If he doesn't come back this year, do they start to fall?
I think so. And it's funny, like we say injury prone and we think of all injuries the same. Like ACL, you're out for 6 months. But some injuries are lingering. Like when Cat went down, people thought he'd be out for 4 to 6 weeks. Now it's 10 weeks. Now it's 12 weeks. Now it's 18 weeks. I think the same type of narrative as you see with his hamstring. He doesn't look fit. He looks like he's getting heavier. It's a hamstring injury. They're not going to rush him back for a team that's in the 10th, 11th, and it looks like they're going to get a 13 seed at this point. So
By the way,
I am very worried about Zion selling off.
selfishly, love these. We're an hour and 10 minutes in. We could have broken this off into 4 episodes. We could have talked about LeBron for one. We could have talked about LaMelo for another. We talked about the difference, the collecting class between the last 4 years of NBA stuff, Fanatics and what they can do. Now we talk about a little bit of Zion. Love it. We could have.
Can I give you one last narrative that no one has discussed?
You don't want to save it for tomorrow? Yes.
No.
Shoot it. Let's go.
It's actually the easiest way for me to formulate how amazing of an NBA season there's been. There's probably 10 different coaches that should be coach of the year.
Okay.
And that's so cool. Not Nate McMillan. But that's really cool. You have Mike Brown in Sacramento who's getting no love. They're a 3 seed. They might be a 2 seed. They're playing really well. They're the best offense in the league. You have Coach Bud. He deserves to be in the consideration. Bickerstaff in Cleveland. You've got I always forget his name, but I love his demeanor at Celtics, the Celtics coach. Is it Jock Vaughn?
No, Joe
he's
Mazzulla.
The Nets.
He's never smiling.
One's on the Nets.
If you have the
OKC Thunder coach, Mike Dagnall.
This is a season where Doc Rivers honestly deserves to be considered. It's actually a season where there's so many great stories. There's so many good teams. And I think a lot of the coaches deserve a lot of credit this year.
Darvin Ham.
Not his fault, man.
Is Jason Kidd going to get fired? Is coaching Luka a coaching death sentence?
Why? What happened?
I mean, you saw what Kidd came out and said about making him better, and he's a young 24-year-old kid. And
what did he say?
It's his job to. I mean, look, I don't want to completely misquote it, but he came out and basically called him out, say he's a young kid, he's got to do better. Yeah.
Interesting. Mavericks Jason Kidd criticizes Luka Doncic's maturity, a sign of their honest rapport.
Maybe that's how they'll spin it now.
My job is to help him get better. I don't know that it's tough love. It's just being honest and seeing where he could get better, and then just talking to him about different things that he wants to see. Okay, interesting. I think the one thing that Luka really should work on
is the standard he sets for his teammates when he complains 94% of the game.
By the way, he has to stop doing that because first of all, I know he's a superstar, but he's not going to get the calls at the end of the game that he wants to get if he's complaining the entire time. He's like the little boy that cried wolf. And yes, that's become an issue. And I think that was part of what Jason Kidd was talking about, by the way, the complaining the whole game. And also, I mean, look, I think that team is 1-3 in the games where him and Kyrie play together. And I think they're 3-3 since Kyrie's come over. You can make an argument that they're still finding their fourth quarter footing, but it really does look like Luka is deferring to Kyrie in the fourth quarter. And in that Lakers game, which you watched, Kyrie couldn't buy a bucket in the fourth. I mean, Kyrie looked like, Aunt Drew. I mean, he was not playing well in that game. And, I mean, Luka, I don't know, at some point he's got to be like, all right, Uncle Drew, you're not shooting anymore. Like, I'm going to take it from here. But
you're right. They need to figure it out. The biggest thing is when Luka is running the offense, they're the slowest team in the league. When Kyrie comes, it speeds it up. So it's really hard in game. Once your team is running and running and running, to be like, yo, let's slow it up. And then so I think that's the biggest challenge is they're different pace players. Luka hardly ever does a fast break.
No, it's the opposite. And I think that's part of his success. He looks off balance. He looks like he's lumbering through the lane, but it's so off balance that people can't defend it. It's like awkwardly good. So that's fun. The only other things I'll talk about from last night, Jason Tatum getting ejected and then making a joke on Twitter was hilarious. I like him even more. Saying
now he's not going to get any calls.
No, that's what he gets for fouling Bron. Because of the whole non-call with LeBron, falling on the court. So that was fun.
You don't like Tatum's game?
And I do, but there's something off about Tatum for me. He has gotten better. He's significantly better this year than he was. I need to see Tatum win. You know what I mean? Like Tatum, for me, I love Devin Booker's game, right? I think Booker is a great player. To me, I know they're not the same player. I put a Booker and a Tatum in the same kind of category,
I think it's a fair
right?
category.
You know
I
what I
think
mean?
Tatum is a significantly better defender.
Yes, supremely talented players that I wouldn't trust yet when the game's on the line in a finals situation. You could put Dame Lillard in that category of like they're scorers who haven't won anything yet, but Dame I would trust with the game on the line with a last minute shot more than those two guys. You know what I mean? Like it's not just that they haven't won. There's
Yes.
just something about it with the eye test that I think they shrink from that moment until I see otherwise. Is that silly?
Dame and with them games on the line is
He
I
wants
don't
it.
know. I don't. There's no one I'd rather have.
So why
Not
I
even
put him
Curry,
in the
not even
equation
close.
is because I don't want it to be I'm putting it. It's guys who look the part and can score but haven't won because Dame hasn't won either. It's not about that. It's not about winning. It's about there's a look to it. Like Dame wants it at the last minute of a game that matters. I don't see that. Definitely not from Booker, and I don't see
What
it
do
from
you think
Tatum.
about Kevin McHale?
Always thought he was significantly overrated and just got the benefit of being on a good team.
You got to remember, and you people, we know this. Like the longer you play or work with someone, there's just this understanding of each other. You know this in corporate life. You know this in sports.
So a good comparison for McHale is Draymond Green.
Draymond Green benefits. Him and Curry and Clay have been together for 10 years.
Yep.
Tatum, Smart, and Brown have been together for almost, I guess this is what, sixth? This is their sixth season?
Yeah,
There's
2017, right?
maybe individually, if Tatum went somewhere else, he might not be as successful, but he is with the guys that know his style so well. So they're going to play to his strengths.
I like to listen. Tatum's one of those guys got to do it for me to buy it. You know what I mean? And right now, it's Giannis did it, and then
That's
went out
going to be
and
one of the best series. Celtics Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. I know people think Sixers for me. I mean, I would never trust Doc Rivers in the playoffs. Anyway, I mean, we could go all day. You want to talk about stats? So the Bruins played the Oilers last night. The Oilers have 4 guys in the top 25 in points. 4 guys top 25 in goals. 4 guys top 25 in assists. Bruins have 1 guy. Bruins, it looked like they won 3-2. It was a close-ish game, but it looked like men against boys. Stats. Teams win, not players.
Yeah.
Teams.
Oh, especially in hockey. Especially,
I might move if this LeBronism continues. I might move my fandom to hockey, where it's truly competition. I want to see the best compete.
No, you called it with the Avalanche. I mean, you nailed it. So obviously you're watching the games, bro. No, but this is a fun episode, man. We talked about a lot of stuff. Can't wait till tomorrow. With nearly 40 years as the most trusted resource for collectors, dating back to the first Beckett magazine in 1984, Beckett has been the brand that bridges generations of the hobby. We're happy to be partnering with Beckett and look forward to keeping you all updated on the big things happening at the company in 2023. Beckett. It's the name you know and the name you can trust.